Today's video log on the 7th of April takes us to the Bridgend area of South Wales, and it looks at three castellated sites: Ogmore, Ewenny and Newcastle Castle to overlook Bridgend. Today's been a beautiful day, and I've been out to the studio with my students to process artefacts from the Flemingston excavation that was undertaken by Archaeology Cymru 3 years ago. And in the evening, looking at a new set of archaeology that I'm teaching, with my students looking at evidence found down wells in Great Britain and Europe. So it's been an exciting class teaching today on Skype. So today we look at Ogmore Castle, and then the Priory at Ewenny, which is castellated, and also Newcastle Castle in Bridgend. Immediately we're onto an aerial view of Ogmore Castle, which, as some of you already know, is presently alongside the Ewenny River. But Ogmore Castle wasn't always directly alongside the Ewenny River. Because of the changes in the river system, it was originally along the confluence of the two rivers Ewenny and Ogmore as they met, hence Ogmore Castle. This is a view from the road. The main structure standing out is naturally the keep. The keep is the oldest part of the castle, constructed and completed by the Delandres family by at least 1126. The Delandres family, otherwise known as the London family, were a very important family in the area. We now go on to one of the great anomalies of Ogmore Castle, these supposed ancient stepping stones. These are not ancient stepping stones at all. They were not there at the time the castle was constructed, therefore they're not ancient. And they would have blocked the passage to ocean-going ships that would have supplied this very low-lying castle at Ogmore. As we'll see from the black and white image now, Ogmore Castle itself had a harbour, it had a moat and a bailey, and could only be supplied by the sea. The main entranceway, interesting enough, was now to the rear of the castle. A beautiful, decorated and carved entranceway made out of Sutton sandstone, which we'll see a similar example at Newcastle Castle in Bridgend that we'll see towards the end of this lecture today. The Delandres family were also responsible for the construction and dues in payment for Ewenny Priory. Ewenny Priory was a fortified church. It was constructed from the 1120s onward, and it shows all the attributes of powerful gateways defended, powerful towers, and obviously view various patrons after the Delandres family being at Ogmore Castle. It was strengthened with a beautiful curtain wall, south and north gateway, towers, and basically the monks would have been protected against any raids. But it was more the defence in light of showing that the Normans were here to stay, and the outside of the walls would have been whitewashed. Some of the Norman architecture inside, beautiful Norman fenestration, and as you can see, the arcading of the chancel in the site, recently restored. And actually one of my own students was responsible for some of the strengthening works at this site. And as we move on, we will see images of the North Gateway. The North Gateway is something that would immediately strike you as defence with this wonderful priory. The North Gateway was constructed sometime in the 1200s, but naturally the idea of defence of this priory started off with the early payments made by the Delandres family, with their requirement that if you paid money to the church could guarantee that you'll go to heaven. This is a plan of the grounds of Ewenny Priory today. It's no longer used as a priory. It's the stately home of the Picton de Turberville family. But in the right corner, top right corner of this, you can see the church, the cross-shaped church. The north transept of the church was demolished, but the south transept is still with us. And this is some of the Norman arcading, which is very similar to some of the arcading that you can see in the entranceway at Newcastle Castle and Ogmore Castle. This is typical Norman Romanesque arches and columns. This site has been visited by several famous people over the years, including a certain Turner, who gave us this beautiful watercolour painting. And you can see it being used in his period over 200 years ago, being used to store animals. And you can see the wonderful wooden rood screen on the left, which would be one of very few survivals in the entire area. It's well worth a visit and recently reopened by the Prince of Wales. This is Newcastle Castle inside the walled courtyard. This site itself shows in front of us a beautiful keep. The entranceway towards the centre of it, we'll see the reverse very, very shortly. But the inside of this courtyard, and it's only got the inside of this courtyard on display because the South Bailey is now occupied by the modern church. But this courtyard didn't really require many buildings to be constructed within it, simply because it had a very small garrison and the walls were enough to display Norman power in the area. This is actually on the opposing side of the River Ogmore, on a well-defended piece of escarpment rock in Welsh territory. The Normans were here to stay. This is showing the entranceway into Newcastle Castle, with the wonderful ornate carving using locally quarried Sutton sandstone. The Sutton quarries are actually to be found south of Ogmore Castle along the coast at Ogmore by Sea, which was up until recent years referred to as Sutton. Now, the final image, we look at the entranceway into Newcastle Castle. And this beautifully ornate carved Sutton sandstone entranceway is very similar to the entranceway which is now to the rear Ogmore Castle, which was the port entranceway to Ogmore Castle. Both these sites were constructed by the Delandres family, and these sites were the precursors to the mighty Oystermouth Castle that was built on the Gower Peninsula by the Delandres family. Thanks for watching and listening to this video log. Thank you.